A corrupt world and a justice system run by criminals rule and the taxpayers pay. The illusion of justice. How corrupt elites manipulate the system to enrich themselves. Throughout history, powerful elites have manipulated judicial and political systems to serve their own interests, siphoning off taxpayer money and plunging nations into debt while ensuring their own protection. The United States, despite its claims of democracy and justice, is no exception. Today, figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk find themselves targeted by a deeply entrenched establishment that fears exposure. When corrupt judges and officials hold the reins of justice, who ensures accountability? The American judicial cartel. The justice system in the U.S. is often portrayed as a pillar of fairness, but beneath the surface, it serves as a tool for the political and corporate elite. Federal judges, many of whom are appointed through political favoritism, wield unchecked power. Judicial misconduct is rarely investigated, and when it is, the investigations are often superficial at best. One of the most egregious cases of judicial corruption was exposed in Pennsylvania's infamous Kids for Cash scandal, where judges Mark Chivarella and Michael Conahan accepted millions in bribes to send juveniles to for-profit detention centers. This was not an isolated incident. Similar underhanded dealings occur at the highest levels of government and law enforcement. Forensic accounting. Following the money trail. One of the most effective ways to expose corruption is through forensic accounting. Many corrupt officials enrich themselves through fraudulent salaries, fake positions, and disguised kickbacks. A deep dive into political campaign financing often reveals how money is funneled through legal loopholes, ensuring that key players receive their cut while avoiding direct exposure. The United States is riddled with schemes where taxpayer money disappears into black holes of bureaucracy. The Pentagon, for instance, has failed to pass a full audit multiple times, with trillions of dollars unaccounted for. Where does that money go? Much of it is funneled into government contracts awarded to private companies with strong political ties, many of which overcharge for services or even fail to deliver altogether. A global web of corruption. The United States is not alone in this systemic corruption. France's government under François Mitterrand provides a clear example of how public funds are misused to buy influence. Renault, the state-backed automaker, was used as a vehicle, literally and figuratively, to pay salaries to individuals in North Africa and other government allies who had never worked a single day for the company. These payments were not just acts of nepotism, they were calculated bribes, ensuring that lucrative contracts and political favors remained within a select circle of power brokers. Meanwhile, in the European Union, billions of euros in agricultural subsidies vanish each year due to fraudulent claims. Many of these subsidies are funneled to politically connected landowners who produce little to no crops but exploit the system through loopholes and lax oversight. The exponential growth of corruption worldwide. Corruption is not just present. It has been growing at an exponential rate. Countries once regarded as relatively transparent have witnessed increasing levels of fraud and misconduct within their governments. The pandemic provided a perfect excuse for misallocation of public funds, with emergency relief programs in multiple nations used as cover for embezzlement and cronyism. From South America to Asia, corruption scandals have reached new heights. In Brazil, Operation Car Wash uncovered a massive money laundering and bribery scheme involving state-controlled oil company Petrobras, political leaders, and multinational corporations. In Malaysia, the 1MDB scandal implicated former Prime Minister Najib Razak in the embezzlement of billions, a crime facilitated by corrupt financial institutions and complicit judicial systems. Africa has also seen its share of systemic looting. In Nigeria, vast sums of oil revenues vanish, with little to no accountability, while in South Africa, state capture under Jacob Zuma's presidency saw billions funneled into private pockets at the expense of the nation's economy. The justice system, a tool for the criminals in power. The very institutions meant to uphold justice are now key instruments of corruption. When criminals control the courts, how can another criminal be stopped? The system has become an echo chamber of self-protection, ensuring that those within the circle of power remain untouchable. Whistleblowers are persecuted while criminals in high office continue their operations with impunity. Consider how justice is applied selectively. While elites avoid real punishment, ordinary citizens face harsh penalties for minor offenses. The U.S. prison industrial complex, for example, incarcerates millions, often for nonviolent crimes, while financial criminals on Wall Street walk free despite laundering billions and wrecking economies. How the puppet masters stay untouchable. Corruption thrives in an environment where accountability is merely an illusion. When powerful individuals control the media, the judiciary, and law enforcement agencies, they can dictate who is prosecuted and who is protected. Consider the financial collapse of 2008. Wall Street executives gambled away trillions, crashed the global economy, and were then bailed out by taxpayer money. Not a single major banker faced significant jail time. Instead, they were rewarded with even greater wealth through government stimulus packages. Contrast this with how the justice system aggressively pursues whistleblowers and political outsiders. Figures like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, who exposed government crimes, are treated as enemies of the state, while those responsible for war crimes and mass financial fraud remain in power. Foundations, the new tool for hiding corruption. As public scrutiny of direct bribery and campaign finance fraud has intensified, the elite have found a new method to launder money and receive kickbacks: charitable foundations. These tax-free entities, marketed as philanthropic organizations, serve as vehicles for influence peddling and financial enrichment. Take the Clinton Foundation, for example. Before becoming Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill Clinton were financially struggling, yet within a few years, they amassed a fortune. The foundation received millions in donations from foreign governments and corporations, many of whom secured favorable policies from the U.S. government. Similar patterns exist in the Obama, Rockefeller, and Bush foundations, where so-called charity money is often funneled back into political campaigns, lobbying efforts, or personal wealth building. These foundations operate as tax-free havens where financial transactions remain largely untraceable. Under the guise of charitable work, elites can collect payments from corporate and foreign interests without direct legal consequences. Unlike businesses or government contracts, foundations are rarely audited, making them the perfect tool for modern-day corruption. The need for a true investigation. The current system is designed to perpetuate corruption rather than eliminate it. If the American people want real change, there needs to be a comprehensive forensic audit of government spending, campaign financing, and judicial decision-making. Judges found to be complicit in political favoritism or financial misconduct should be removed and prosecuted. The same goes for politicians who have spent decades enriching themselves through insider deals. Until then, justice remains a carefully curated illusion, controlled by those who benefit most from its selective application. The question remains, will the people demand accountability, or will the puppet masters continue their show?